Once again, thank you so much for joining us on our second session webinar, community information to make sure our brothers, sisters, siblings, our community have the right information. Again, today is Friday, July 24th, 2026. Merci, bienvenue à tout le monde encore une fois. Nous pourrons commencer dans quelques minutes. Jodi, c'est vendredi 24 juillet 2026. Côté que nous pral bay information sous cause immigration, sous cause TPS, avec mise à jour que nous gagnons. Égal, n'a bay yon l'autre minute encore, et puis n'a commencé. Okay, I think we are going to start. So that we have enough time to go over as much as possible as we are moving forward. Again, thank you so much for joining us. My name is Gerlin Joseph. I am the co-founder and executive director of the Haitian Rouge Alliance. Encore une fois, merci en pile. Non, moi c'est Gerlin Joseph, moi c'est cofondatrice et directrice exécutive organisation Haitian Rouge Alliance pour Alliance Haïtienne, organisation PANOA. So tonight we welcome you once again so you can get the right information that is needed. And we have with us attorneys who will be able to go over the cases, over what it means, and give you practical tools to use to protect yourself and your family. Jodi a nou gen avoka avek nou ki pral ba nou eksplikasyon ki sa denye mizajou yo ye, ki sa sa nap tande ki ap soti nan la Cour suprême ye. Et kon sa tou, yo pral ba nou bon jan zouti pou nou konen ki jan pou nou proteje tet nou avec fami nou. Avant nous commencer, je vais passer by Daniel Tilias qui pour expliquer nous qui gens pour nous capable de jouer une interprétation dans la langue créole. Before we begin, I'm going to pass it to Daniel Tilias, who is going to explain to us how to access interpretation in Haitian Creole. Daniel?
Bonsoir, bonsoir tout le monde. Nous content que nous pral gagner chance pour nous capable gagner session ça dans sens accès langue pour tout le monde qui pas parler anglais. Alors nous pral faire li en créole, ça nous pral besoin connaître pour monde qui pas habitué avec Zoom, nous gain deux possibilités, soit avec et téléphone nous, ou bien une tablette, ou bien avec un ordinateur. Si ou avec un ordinateur, ou ap déjà ouais en bas dans page à côté toute photo yo paraît là dans Zoom nan, ou ap un côté qui gagne on one que yo le un globe, ou ap cliquer sur lui qui marque interprétation et là ou cliquer sur lui, il prend le bon choix pour gagner est-ce que c'est en anglais ou voulez tendre, est-ce que c'est en créole haïtien ou voulez tendre, ou ap cliquer sur créole haïtien. Comme ça, tout si c'est son téléphone ou bien tablette ou attendel, ou qui doit pas ouais globe là automatiquement, ou qui doit c'est trois petits points ouais en bas page côté qui gagne toute photo moun yo paraît là, ou cliquer sur trois petits points ça. Et de trois petits points, hein, li pral ba ou liste, même j'en te dit avant, interprétation pour capable prendre soit anglais ou bien créole haïtien, mais dans le cas pour là, c'est créole haïtien. Comment fin dit ça là, yo pral mettre page là, ou pral garder l'elle monter, et puis ou choisi soit trois petits points, soit globe là, kap menon dans interprétation, et puis toute information ça yo, bon information ça yo, ou pral katane directement en créole, parce que avocat nou yo gen nan yo qui pa parler créole. Merci en pile tout le monde, nous souhaitons que nous pral gen une bonne séance.
Merci un pile, Daniel. Thank you so much, Daniel. Just to begin, again, Gerlin Joseph, and we are not going to take much time. I would like to say thank you so much to our amazing attorneys, Alan Orr, because Daniel keeps on talking, so I'm thinking Daniel. Alan Orr, who is going to go over a lot of what we need to know. And of course, the amazing Eric, who will begin and give us an overview of where we are in all things immigration, and then we will keep forward. At the end, we will leave space for you to ask questions. And if you put your questions in the Q&A portion or the chat, we will be able to answer them at the end of the actual information. So please don't be discouraged. Keep your questions coming. We'll be able to address them at the end. But right now, to begin, I will go ahead and tell you that yes, we are going through a lot. And you can see how tired we are. And we know how difficult this moment is, not just for Haitians, but for all immigrants. But right now, lives are at risk. We'll continue to push, we'll continue to fight. With that being said, I will pass it to Eric Crew to get us started on the latest update on what is happening. Eric, what is happening?
Thank you so much, Carleen, and good evening, everyone. I'm Eric Crew. I am staff attorney with Haitian Bridge Alliance, and in this context, HBA is co-counsel on 5 different federal lawsuits challenging TPS terminations for 8 different countries: Venezuela, Haiti, Honduras, Nicaragua, Nepal, South Sudan, Ethiopia, and Somalia. And I want to be clear at the beginning that we are not co-counsel on the case out of DC coming where the Haiti temporary protected status protections are currently in the Miot v. Mullins case. We are not on that great co-counsel team, but we are across a lot of these different cases across the country. And so, yes, I'm here today to help clarify what is going on with Haitian TPS right now. There has been a lot of confusion. We know there has been some big decision that happened on June 25th. And then we thought maybe Haitian TPS would end on June 26th, but it didn't. It was July 1st, and then it was July 10th, and then it was July 24th, and now we have this new news. So, what is actually going on? I'm here to try and answer that question. Um, so, as you probably know, Haitian TPS, as soon as this Trump administration came in, was one of the first temporary protected status protections that was targeted. Venezuela and Haiti were the first countries that were targeted. And the Trump administration has gone on to target, I believe, 13 other communities now. But all across the country, organizers, individual Haitian TPS holders, brilliant attorneys from a bunch of different organizations, all got together, when all in their different jurisdictions, wherever they were in the country, filed lawsuits challenging these terminations. Okay. I want to lift up the National TPS Alliance, one of the brave organizations that is doing this, African Communities Together, Partnership for Advancement of New Americans, Communities United for Status and Protections, and then a bunch of individual TPS holders who have challenged these terminations in federal court. So, when you go into federal court, when you go into most US courts, you have an opportunity to do something called, I want to ask for preliminary protections. So I file a case because someone is doing something to harm me, and I go to the court and I say, look, uh, it's clear that I'm being harmed. This case is going to take some time for you to hear all the facts and hear the final judgment. And so while the case is going on, please protect me. Issue an order that protects me while the case is going on. And that's what has been happening across the country. That's what happened in the Haiti TPS case in DC. You likely remember that everyone was worried about February 3rd and February 4th. And then the court in DC stopped that termination from going into effect. So that is the order that has been protecting Haitian TPS until the government eventually appealed it to the Supreme Court, that preliminary order. And so that's the order that was handed down on June 25th. The Supreme Court did say that that order protecting Haitian temporary protected status was unlawful. Okay, so that judgment has happened. Yes, it was a big, huge deal. But still, that did not immediately end Haitian temporary protected status protections. And so that's what I want you to understand. And here's why. Even though the Supreme Court is the highest court in the land, its decisions do not immediately go into effect generally. Generally, the Supreme Court gives 25 days, even to the losing party, to ask for a rehearing. And then generally in its rules, it gives then 7 days at least after that time before it makes its ruling official. What it says, what it's called issuing its mandate. And so that's why, and the Supreme Court can choose to do things differently if it wants to. But in this case, and the case concerning Haiti TPS, it did not. When it sent its decision back to the Second Circuit, to the DC court, it explicitly said, we will not issue our mandate for at least 32 days. And so the decision wasn't going to go into effect immediately. Now, the the government, the Trump administration, they don't want that to happen. As we have seen, what we believe is that part of their strategy is to create as much confusion and panic in order to make people feel like they need to give up their rights or do something that's going to put themselves in jeopardy. And so, even though the Supreme Court said its decision wouldn't become official, the government chose to put July 1st on its E-Verify website and on the USCIS website because it was hoping that it would be able to get the court, the DC court that issued the order protecting Haitian TPS, to undo that order quicker. And it has tried. It has tried a number of times. It has asked the DC court to undo the TPS protections sooner than the Supreme Court decision becomes official. But every time it's done that, the court has said, no, we're going to follow what the Supreme Court has said. And so we will not issue our order um, um, doing anything to the Haitian TPS protection order until at least July 27th. And so every time the government has been trying to get it done, and every time they failed, they just keep picking a new arbitrary date. So they went to July 1st and they couldn't win that. And then they moved it to only July 10th. And then they didn't get the win that they want there. That's why they moved it to July 24th. And then finally, on July 24th, or sorry, actually, July 22nd, the DC court officially said, look, we're not going to undo the order until at least July 27th. And then that's when you might have heard some news that said the circuit court extended TPS for 3 days. Well, that's not exactly true. TPS does not have any official end date. TPS will, for Haitians, will end when the DC court order of postponement is undone. That's when it will end. It doesn't end any sooner than that. And so all TPS protections, all work authorization are still active. And employers should not be taking any adverse action against TPS holders. Um, but this is what I want you to understand. It is likely that once the circuit court gets the decision back from the Supreme Court, it will have to undo the protections for Haitian TPS. And so, but it's only going to be by that court's order that TPS protections are actually done. So even July 27th is not an official date yet. It is likely that it could even take a little bit longer. So you need to be watching and being in communities with trusted sources of information like this, and then watching what happens in the DC court. That's the only thing that's going to undo Haitian temporary protected status protections. But it is likely that it's going to happen. And so we don't want you to panic, but we want you to be prepared. Just like Haitian Bridge Alliance has been advising Haitian TPS holders since responding to the panic in Springfield in October and November, the advice is still the same. Know your rights, consult with an immigration attorney to see what other forms of immigration relief you may be eligible for. And yes, make a preparedness plan, a family emergency plan, should targeted enforcement action be taken against you. Now, fortunately, we are here joined today, as Geraldine mentioned, by an exceptional attorney, an advocate, and HBA board member, Alan Orr, who is going to go over for you what can I do actually to prepare. Okay, I understand maybe TPS might not even end July 27th, but if it is going to end soon, what can I be doing to prepare? So I'm going to turn it over to Alan Orr, and I'll be here to answer any questions later. Thank you so much.
You, Eric. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for spending your Friday night with us as we see that the dawn is rising on when TPS may end. And now is the time to prepare for an emergency package so that you can have the best legal defense and best financial sense as we move forward. So, first thing you want to do is make this packet. Be prepared to put it in a safe place. This package should include documents that will help protect your legal rights, preserve options for future immigration, and prepare the family in case of detention or loss of work authorization. The very first thing we want to start with are your immigration documents, your passport, all of your TPS approval notices, any copies of work authorization cards that you may have, an I-9-4 card, which means you were inspected and entered. Maybe you came in a student visa, or you had some other visa, work visa that you overstayed maybe, or you have a valid I-9-4 card for now. Visa pages. You want to have birth certificates. And if you can have the birth certificates translated already into English, because UCIS and immigration courts are only going to deal with documents that are in English. And you can translate the documents yourself and then write another short paragraph that says, I speak Haitian Creole and English, and I certify that this is a true and accurate translation. So you don't always have to pay to get a translation done, but you want to have them done. Your marriage certificate, any divorce decrees you may have, if that's important to the case you have, go forward. Your children's birth certificates, those that were born in Haiti as well as the United States. Your social security card, any driver's license you may have or have had in the past, if you have copies of it, you want to keep those together. Any receipts from a governmental agency, you want to have those together. Any copies of applications you filed. So you might have filed your TPS. You might have also filed an asylum case. You may have tons of different cases. You want to have all that stuff in a file together so that when you see an attorney or you need help, someone's able to put together a story to give you the best defense. Any court orders or any removal documents that you may have. This is also the time to start thinking about having an attorney or an attorney that you would like your family or someone to reach out to if something happens. You don't want to wait until you have a problem to find an attorney. Now's the time to have those attorneys available to you. Eric and I are both attorneys, but we're not your attorney. And tonight, the advice that we're giving you is advice to help you be prepared to move forward, not as legal advice to your specific case, because every case is different and it's case by case. What we want to make you aware of is that you need to be the guardian of your family and your immigration status. And starting with that, one of the things we see most recently is that individuals have been put in removal proceedings, or they had removal court dates in the year 2027 that have now been moved up. So Haitian Bridge Alliance, as well as I have in many social places, now suggests that you check to see if your A number is in the immigration court system, the EOIR system, for removal, and if you have a court date, to make sure that you appear at that court date on a weekly basis. If you put your A number into that system and you get nothing returned, that's okay. It just means that you're not in removal at this point in time. And just to help everyone understand what an A number is, it is your case identifying number for your immigration file with the immigration government. Every immigrant who comes to the United States and is either in some form of process to move towards green cards or just has some infraction is assigned an A number. And that A number is just their file where they're going to keep all the paper and their records. And if you have done a good job with your TPS emergency package, you will have everything that the government has in their A package because you will have kept all the documents that you've provided to them and all the approvals that you received from them. And that will give you the equivalence of knowing the complete and final record of those things. If you don't feel as if you have every file or every document from the government, you can also seek out doing a Freedom of Information to get that file, which may be important if you've been in the country for 25 years or longer and you just don't know what immigration documents you may have in your past. And that's another thing that you can do separately that we can talk about towards the end if it becomes important. The reason why getting those documents together are important is we need to understand exactly what your history is in this country. And for me, in this space, I talk about the 2 and 10-year rule for people to think about. And this is the number and the amount of evidence you need to prove. If you've been here for 2 years or more, you will not be expeditiously removed from the United States, meaning you will, in fact, appear before an immigration judge in almost every case. If you've been here for 10 years or more, and you have certain other requirements, you may have some more defenses that will help you overcome your removal and be able to obtain a green card. And there's a strict limitation on that. There's only 4,000 a year, but it's still an option that you might be able to hold out onto. And we'll talk about those a little bit later on in this conversation. The reason it's important to show evidence of continuous presence in the United States is that's going to have to prove that you've been here for 10 years or 2 years. And so what's going to help you get to that space of proving you've been here for 10 years or 2 years? A lease agreement, a mortgage agreement if you bought a house, utility bills, that could be your cell phone, your cable, or anything, your gym, bank statements, school records. If you've been to school or your kids have been to school and you've been signing their report cards or anything that any sort of appearance there, medical records, employment records, tax returns. Tax returns are ultimately part of good moral character. So you want to make sure that you have, if you've been here for a while, that you've been sure that you filed your taxes or that you're in the case of making sure your taxes are filed, because that's one of the things the government's always going to look to first when they start judging if you've been here as a good citizen or a bad citizen with regards to if you paid your taxes or not. Resident rather than citizen, we'll switch that word out. Been a good resident or a bad resident. W-2s, a 1099 if they're contract jobs, pay stubs, and insurance records. It is vitally important that when you accumulate these documents, you do it in such a way that is in chronological order. So your immigration documents, chronological order. Any of these documents that show you've been here in chronological order. And I do suggest that if you are undocumented, that you do carry a copy of the presence for 2 years on your person, as well as your identifying documents, whatever that may be. If it's an expired passport, it's an expired passport. If it's an expired EAD card, it's an expired EAD card. Whatever documents you have to prove your person, you want to have them on you at that time. And we'll talk about when you encounter police or ICE later on in the future. But you want to make sure that you have those documents at your disposal when you have an encounter with the ICE officer. And the reason being, generally that first encounter will define your interaction in history with that ICE officer. And in some cases, we have read that there are people who presented their birth certificate and they have still been detained. We can't control for every case, but what we can do is put you in the best position that if you do have that encounter, that you have the documents that you're able to provide to the officer that may prevent you from going to detention or may put you in a better place with regards to saying, getting your counsel to be available to you or say that these documents were provided to them so that you won't be put in expedited removal. And you won't have someone searching for documents to try to get them to you, because when someone is detained, for example, someone could be detained today in New York City and wake up in the morning in Georgia. Most of the detention facilities are in the South, and they move people pretty rapidly for a couple of reasons. One, it's difficult to get a lawyer in these rural places in the South. Two, the states are more favorable to them with regards to immigration at the state level, with regards to immigration enforcement, and even their asylum cases are faster. So you want to be prepared to see if you can halt some of those issues along the way. And then sometimes, if you have this prepared plan and you have an attorney to call, that attorney may be able to stop you from being removed from the state that you're in, which could put you in a better position. So you want to have all of these sort of strategies along the way by having that folder together, having seen an attorney, and then having these documents to prove how long you've been in the United States. It is also a time to make a decision about what's important to you, because the best service is always going to come at some cost. And there will be some attorneys that will provide names. We posted to the website places where you can go and find some attorneys, and hopefully there'll be some that can do pro bono or low bono. But now's the time to be saving because these cases are going to be expensive. And in most cases, the person who's able to pay is going to get better service than someone who's not able to pay. And that's just the reality of the situation. It's time to make choices with regards to things that you don't need. If there's things that you need, definitely make those choices. But if there's things you don't need, then you want to sort of thinking that space to be prepared for that. In some cases, you may want to say to an attorney, I can't hire you, but what I want to pay you for as a consultation is for you to look at my documents and tell me what options I might have, right? Advice and referral, what options I could potentially say in immigration court. That means the attorney's not going to do the work for you. They're just going to say, looking at this document, right? I'm not your lawyer, but looking at your documents, this is what I think you should do or try to do if you wind up in removal or detention. This should be your strategy to get to the end. And that's what a large number of people will need to do. I was the president of the American Immigration Lawyers Association. We have about 17,000 lawyers in our organization in the United States, period. And probably only a third of those lawyers do any type of court work across the board. So that shows you how many well-trained immigration lawyers there are within the immigration bar. There are other bars that also do representation in immigration, but these are people who only do immigration law for the most of the time. So that tells you there's a large number of people who are going to need help and a small number of attorneys. So what we're doing tonight is supplementing what the government used to do to you when you were put in removal, which is to educate you about your rights and help you plan to have the documents you need for the best strategy forward. These documents will be used for you with your attorney, but also when you get ready to go to immigration court, you'll be able to show them that you've been here for more than 2 years, you've paid your taxes, any claims, any other documents you may have going, you'll be able to have a better case and understanding of what your story is. Now let's talk about what should also be equally important to you, which is sort of protecting your financial documents. You want to make sure that you've been here for 10 years, 5 years, 2 years even so, and you own stuff. You want to make sure that someone's able to, and you can identify exactly what you own. You want to know where your bank accounts are, where your retirement accounts are, your vehicle titles, your property titles, your insurance policies, life insurance policies if you have them, your credit card information, and know what your monthly bills are. You want to organize this in such a way that someone can go to this and say, okay, this is what this person has going on, and I can pick this up for them and take care of whatever I need to take up care for them. And in many cases, in order for that person to do that, they may need a power of attorney. And while immigration law is a federal law, meaning it's the same across all of the states, powers of attorney, custodial or protection right for your children, as well as employment issues, meaning can I get unemployment insurance or not, are all governed by different states. So in that case, Eric and I won't be able to advise you on that as a general policy other than to say, you need to look at your specific state to see what the rules are for doing those individual things. In some cases, you might not be able to afford an attorney or reach an attorney. And in that case, I ask you to be resourceful and use Google or whatever else to do the best document you can is better than nothing. So having nothing would be the lowest standard. Finding maybe there might be a legal aid society where you are that's put some draft documents together to use those documents to get you to the best place you can be is better than not having anything at all. So that's what's important. You need to sort of make those choices and recommendations to be as resourceful as possible. And in many cases, and then your city or your state, see what pops up, contact them and say, I just need to do a simple power of attorney, or you need to do a custodial document for your children, and they may be able to help you because they have these large clinics that they do all the time. So sort of watch out for those certain things and sort of watch. In your emergency plan for your family, you want to have an emergency contact list for your family members across the board just in case something happens. Child care authorization, which could be the letter or the custodial document. Medical consent for your children. So if you have a minor child and you're detained and they're a United States citizen or even not a United States citizen, but they're not detained, if something happens to them, the medical doctor is not going to be anything without your approval, and that's going to be difficult to get. So you want to have that in place now so that if something happens, you're prepared for it, right? The power of attorney, we talked about that. The guardian documents will sort of have all that stuff together. The school contacts, if the kids aren't going to be able to come to school anymore, or if something's going to happen, Someone needs to be able to communicate to the school exactly what's going on in case the child has behavior problems, or you just need to address whatever the issue may be through the school system. So the school is not out of the dark with regards to what's happening with regards to the family situation if something happens. You also want to have a list of medications, and you want to have a family meeting place. So if something happens, which, raids are unlikely to happen across the board right now, but if for whatever reason you're separated, you want to have a plan of this is our goal of where we're going to meet up, whether that be in the United States or outside the United States. So a good preparedness plan will cover, here are my documents and how long I've been here in immigration, right? My immigration story. Here's my history of presence, which is your mortgage, your lease, and the other documents. And here are what my options are if I wind up in removal. If I don't wind up in removal, this is what's going to happen. And in those plans for removal, you want to know, if you are removed back to Haiti, who are you going to contact, or who's your family contact to ensure that you land on the ground in the safest position possible? What will that look like for you? Who's going to manage getting your money to you, or selling your assets to get you your stuff back to you in that case, or rearranging your family livelihood in that case? If you're not removed, what does that look like to remain in the country and be part of the undocumented class of individuals here? What are you going to do? Who are you going to talk to? Where are you going to be able to eat, live? All of those things. Now's the time to sort of think those out so you can weigh your options in the best light to figure out how you wish to move forward. In many cases, if you've been here for a long time, there will be options for some unemployment, but unemployment generally in most states is only going to last a couple of months. And so that's not going to be able to get you to the long-term goal, specifically if you're paying a lease, you have car insurance, all of those things. It's called a burn list. And that means that you're going to decide, if you have to cut your expenses, what are the things you're going to cut first? And what are the things you're going to cut last? Already think about that. Already cut some things to save money for food or whatever you may need along the way. And who's going to be able to help you? Will it be your church? Will it be reaching out to Haitian Bridge for whatever that may be? What those organizational things may be across the board. So just have that concept in your mind as you sort of go through it. Because the time to organize is before the time that you're in removal or you have an interaction with an ICE officer. You also want to keep your employment records together. It is, in some cases, you may have an option for an immigration case in the future, and part of your employment letters will put together the history to prove you have the work experience to meet the requirements that immigration may hold for whatever those jobs may be, which are generally around, in most cases, are around 2 years of experience. But you want to have those sort of have a concept of who you are as a profession and something to back up those documents, as well as the W-2. But if you have letters that say, if you're doing engineering or you're a nurse or home health care, all these things are skill sets that are shortages in the United States. And you want to have a composite to have those skill sets, because if those companies go out of business or those companies decide not to say that you work there, you sort of want to have your own sort of track record to sort of back that up. If you have, in many cases, many TPS holders don't, any type of criminal history, you want to make sure there's a record of resolve to that. And in most cases, what we've seen are traffic violations. So you want to make sure if you had a speeding ticket, you have the ticket, you have that you paid the ticket, right? In most cases, that's generally what it's going to be. If there's something else, that you're probably already going to have been removed from the United States in most of the cases with regard to that. And the last thing, as we sort of move through this, is the know your rights. We want to make sure in every case that every individual knows their right, whether you are a foreign national, a U.S. citizen, or someone who's in a mixed status, meaning part of the family's here documented, part of the family's not here documented. And so we're going to sort of run through those things. So we're going to talk about the red card, which you can Google, and also will be available shortly through Haitian Bridge and Creole, is the card that you can carry with you that will substitute for you having to sort of say, these are what my rights are, this is what I want to do. Because in the moment you might get nervous. And what we don't want you to do is to have a communication that will become part of your record without talking to an attorney first. You also, if you're able, to have an attorney card or information in your pocket. So you don't have to wonder what the number is. Maybe that be one of the numbers that you memorize. You don't want it to just be in your phone. And the reason for that is most likely they're going to take the phone away from you. So you want to have it written on paper, something that you can sort of touch and feel and be able to access without having to turn on or being powered. So have a card if you have one with your a family emergency number, who you're going to call. And so for most cases right now, people don't really know numbers. So you want to have that written down on paper as well, just in case you need to meet that. The card that Gerline just showed basically says, I choose to remain silent and I want to speak to my lawyer. I do not consent to a search. That is the basic parameters around every stop on the street. What that does is defers the ICE officer, once you assert those rights, to take you in and have a longer conversation rather than trying to get everything on the street. And therefore, you won't wind up in immediate removal. You won't have waived into your rights by mistake, and you won't have done anything. So that card is super important to have as you sort of go through that. There are a whole circus of immigration issues that are long shots right now in Hail Marys, as well as political issues. So there are family-based immigration situations for individuals who have married someone who might be a United States citizen, or their child might have reached a maturity of 21 and able to sponsor you and have a job, with your only issue being that you enter the country without being inspected, and you need a waiver for that. If you fall in that circumstance, now's the time to start those applications, because the processing times are long. But you want to be able, if you're in an immigration situation or an immigration court, to say, I've started this procedure of using the pathways that are available to me under the law, which would be a family case. There also may be some employment cases, which is very rare, national interest and whatnot, but still think about that. And that's why you want to have those employment records available to you. Asylum is an option. It's a diminished option in the Haitian case, specifically depending on how long you've been here. And Haitian Bridge has some conversation today with regards to people using different words with regards to dealing with the time frame from them filing, because the ending of TPS is a new occurrence and may start the toll again for the 1 year clock of saying I'm filing now because I have this newfound fear. The problem with that is going to be getting the documentations to prove exactly what that fear is, because so many things have changed in such a long period of time, but it could be possible. And we've seen, depending on what state you're in, denial rates in the 80% for asylum cases. So just know that that may be a difficult road. It might buy some time, but it should not be the first answer. If you have an adjustment of status case pending or a 45 case pending, as well as the ending of your TPS, then you should be fine. A 485 receipt for someone who's in the United States proves authorization to stay while that application is pending under the government. So you do have status. Your status doesn't have a name other than authorized period of stay by the Attorney General. But that 45 receipt, along with your passport, is what you need to prove that you're eligible to remain in the United States. For many of us, we have TPS. We may have an asylum case pending. We might have had a parole that turned into a 45. All those things are important. But what we should strategize with is saying to lead with our strongest position so that we don't start having conversations that don't need to be had. So if someone's saying, do you have TPS? You might in fact have TPS, but you might also have the 45. Lead with the 45, because that's going to get you out of the situation to prove that you're eligible to stay in the United States. And that's something that an attorney can help you sort of strategize with if you have different options. So for example, if you have a pending asylum case, you don't have asylum if your case is pending. You don't have asylum until your asylum is approved, but you're in a period of authorized stay. If you have an asylum case pending, you want to have that asylum receipt available. You want to make sure that you paid your annual fee for that asylum receipt. So there's a lot of sort of things to maintain in the asylum world. Hopefully we'll be able to get some resources to you in Creole, but that's also a good thing to have. There might be a special immigrant juvenile case for youth. There may be UNT visas, which are unlikely. VAWA. One of the strongest things that I'm sort of pushing for is this cancellation of removal, which is sort of based on the amount of time you've been in the United States, which is why those documents are super important, and also having a U.S. Dependent child in most cases is going to be the strongest. The registry generally isn't going to work for anyone, because I doubt anyone's been here since 1972, I think it is. So that's really not going to be, that's a long haul option that's not really going to work for you. And there may be other humanitarian relief, which the United States has rules against returning people to places where they may be tortured. And I think that that's a strong case in the Haitian situation. But what we've seen the United States also start saying is that they will remove to third-party countries. Earlier this week, we saw 2 planes that were removed to Haiti. So removals have started again. The category of people on those planes were not the same as TPS. I believe most of them had some other underlying issue charge. I don't know the validity of those charges, but they had some charges. So we'll have to see how that progresses in time. And as Eric has said, and as Gerline has said to many people, you want trusted resources. You want to know where the trends are so that you're able to be educated and make good decisions with regards to moving forward. ICE operations have changed. In one time, we would see that they were centered in just one city. Now they're everywhere. So if you're planning, and this is for everyone on the call, if you're planning to travel right now, you want to make sure between states, even within a state, if you're taking a bus, plane, train, you want to make sure you have identity documents with you that prove that you're a United States citizen in almost every case, right? In some cases, it may be a real ID. In some cases, it may be a passport. In other cases, it may be your immigration documents to prove that status. If you are undocumented or you become undocumented, you want to be smart about the places you choose to either travel or hang out with, because as we have seen, people on buses who are undocumented now have been detained. Flying is almost impossible to do if you're undocumented. We have seen police stops in and out of states in which there's a state officer doing it, but then there's an ICE officer right down the road who sort of follows up and actually captures the individual. These are things or choices that we're making that we're available to avoid, because there may be circumstances in which for a while we may need to make choices that will not put us in the greatest harm. And this is some of those choices of saying, well, is now the time to travel? Is now the time to go to that place? Is now the time to be in this public setting where ICE may be detaining people when you may have relief? Because as we have even seen with TPS, throughout the administrations, relief may come again from someone else. And it's been clear from the Supreme Court that any president could just decide to give TPS and it would be fine. And there's no way for anyone to sort of challenge it. That's the good news we sort of got from this case. Let's go back a little bit about the documents again, because we want to think about how them. So you want to have the original documents and copies. You want tons of people to know where those copies are so they can access them and do things with them. If you're able to do it digitally and store it in the cloud, that's even better, because then you can give your attorney access via remote sort of place or world. It's good to encrypt the documents, and you want to use a trusted member. Now is not the time to have that friend that you just met months ago to know this type of information about yourself. You want a trusted person because you're basically handing them your life in a folder or telling them where your life is in a folder. So don't make yourself subject to potential crimes in the United States by giving the information to the wrong person. You want to make sure you sort of select the right person in making those decisions. All right. And let's talk about if ICE comes and when ICE may come or may not come. If ICE comes to you on the street, generally, it's going to be because they supposedly have a suspicion, but most likely it's just going to be because you're walking while Black and you're in a neighborhood that may be known for having a lot of immigrants, or you're a Black person in a Latin town. You want to stay calm. You don't want to run. You're not going to sign anything or speak to anyone until you see or talk to your attorney. If they appear at your home, you're not going to open the door unless they have a judicial warrant. There are 2 types of warrants. There are warrants that are issued by Immigration or Department of Justice, administrative warrants, and there are judicial warrants that are issued by courts. Those court warrants will always have a state or county's name on it. It will not say Department of Justice or UCIS or ICE or DOJ. They're very distinguishable. So if someone comes to the house, the thing you want to see first is, do they have a warrant? If there's no warrant, there's no communication, there's nothing. That's it. If they do have a warrant, ask them to provide you with the warrant. If the name on the warrant doesn't match the name in anyone's building, then just that name doesn't match. If the name matches and it is a judicial warrant, has a state or county on it, does not say Immigration Services, does not say ICE, does not say Department of Justice, then you should allow the individuals into the home. You're not responsible to helping them do anything once they're inside the home or identifying people, but if they have a warrant at that point, they're allowed to enter your home and carry out whatever enforcement procedures they want. It is important in all of these circumstances that you remain silent. Under no circumstances are you responsible or obligated to talk. And the same goes for your children or anyone else. We have started educating children to make sure that children aren't as free with conversations as they may have been in the past. You may want your children to be aware, just like the talk with regards to acting to any police officer, specifically if they're a minor, they need to talk to your parent. That's the only thing a child needs to say, right? And then remain silent. My mom, you need to talk to my mom or a parent, and then sort of remain silent. If it is a workplace, which many of us work in, and you own an establishment, you should make sure that the public space is delineated from your private employee space by having employee-only signs. If an ICE officer or any federal person shows up in your company and they don't have a judicial warrant, they cannot go into the only employee-only space. They may be in the public space, and the owner of that property may ask them to leave because they get to determine who's within their property and what time frame. So, and as an employer, as with any information with any of your employees, you're not obligated to give out any information unless you have a warrant or some other information that's requested of you to provide to the government. And that's done through a warrant, not just, let me give you these records, let me give you this employee file. That's not the way, that's not a helpful way. It's also not a way to protect your employee files in general, because you're not obligated to do that. And that information becomes part of the record, which may also be used against you as the employer in the future. So you want to be sort of smart about making those decisions along the way. Things to happen when an ICE officer stops you, and if you have minor kids. So let's just go through a scenario. An ICE officer stops me, and they say they're an ICE officer, and I say I'm a U.S. citizen, and I give them my passport, or I give them my driver's license. The very next thing that should happen in that scenario is, am I free to go? If you are free to go, then go. If you are not free to go, then remain silent, unless you need to provide the following information. If you need to tell the officer that there is a minor child somewhere waiting on you, you're a single parent, and your child is at the school, at the hospital, at home, and nobody's going to be there to get them, that needs to be communicated so that the child is not sort of out there alone by themselves. The second thing that needs to be communicated is if you have a medical need, whatever that may be, you're diabetic, you need insulin, you have shots, you have a heart, whatever it is, you need to take medicine, something 3 times a day, you need to make sure that they're aware of that so that they're responsible for it if they don't give it to you in the future. We've seen cases where there have been migrants who've not received the medical care that they needed. And we want to make sure that we can hold the government accountable for that, because that is a responsibility under our Constitution, that if you tell them there's a medical need, or if you tell them there's a minor and they don't do anything about it, they absorb some liability. In the past, if you expressed you had a minor child, they would let you go in general. They may come with you, verify the child, ankle bracelet, things like that. But generally, you're not detained. If you have a medical issue, generally you're not detained. They'll make sure you have a court date, maybe get you set up for an ankle bracelet, because the government generally doesn't want that healthcare responsibility to sort of take care of you and come through that path. This is a very difficult time for everyone. You are not in this space alone. There's around 1 million TPS holders who may be losing their status. You are not helpless, because we provided you with some tools for you to make adult decisions with regard to what's important to you and how to get there. While our list of all the attorneys that are going to be available is not available to you, you can search immigration clinic in your area. You can search immigration pro bono in your area. You can pull up a list of immigration attorneys and start calling them. All of those things are within your control. You can ask your church, right? Or your friends, do you know an immigration attorney that could help me? Catholic Charities is everywhere. Use those institutions, but when you go to those institutions, have these documents ready for them, because they're trying to help a large number of people. And if you can't tell them the full story, they can't help you get to the best pathway for you. And so that's where I like to hold right now for Gerline to start answering some questions, and let Gerline come in and tell you what Haitian Bridge has to offer. And I will start addressing some of the questions that I may see in the box.
Thank you so much, Alan. Thank you so much. Merci en pile. As we told you, we are going to give you the tools that you need to protect yourselves. And we want to let you know that the fight is not over. I'm going to give you some updates on other avenues we are looking into while we continue to fight. One of the things that I would like after that for Alan to go over is how people can check the court dates. I don't know if you did already. That will be helpful. I'm seeing some people texting me on the side as well, asking me some questions. But we want to let you know that in addition to the lawsuits and everything you just heard, we have a three-branch approach. Well, four. We have direct approach with the executive branch, where we are continuously reaching out and asking the Trump administration to find ways to protect immigrants, to protect Haitian TPS holders. We are actively doing that. We are hitting rocks, we are hitting mountains, but that doesn't stop us. We also, as you heard from Eric, have another case with TPS for Haiti, Venezuela, and others. So this fight continues as well. But right now in Congress, I'm going to talk to you about two different bills that we are pushing, we are fighting for to see how we can get Congress to protect our people. The first one I'm going to talk about is the Senate Bill S4814. This is a bill that is currently in the Senate, and I want to highlight some misunderstanding that we see within several media saying that the bill has failed. So there are several steps to get us to where we need. Yes, Senate tried to force a vote a couple of days ago that failed. However, the bill continues to push to make sure we get the number of votes that we need to move to get us hopefully protection. And that bill will provide TPS protection for 3 years. Normally, TPS is 12 months or 18 months, and they renew it all the time. This specific bill will cover Haitian TPS holders for 3 years, and it is in the Senate. That is something that already passed in the House under the leadership of the amazing Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley from Massachusetts. We won in the House side. Now, under the leadership of Ed Markey of Massachusetts and Blond Rochester of Delaware, we keep pushing in the Senate that will cover the Haitian TPS holders. That is why we are asking each and every one of you to please call your senators, call your friends, to call their friends, to call their uncle, to call their grandmas. Now is the time to put politics to the side, and we need to call both Republicans and Democrat senators. We need to call people in New York and in Arkansas, in Tennessee and in Florida, in Alabama and in New Jersey to make sure that those senators join forces with us to vote and protect TPS for Haiti. At the very basic, we need 51 Senate votes. That will take us to the next step. We need 60 votes to get us past a filibuster, and we need 67 votes to get us a veto proof, which means when the bill gets on the president's desk, he will be forced to sign it if we are able to get 67 Senate votes. In order for us to get that, we need both Republicans and Democrats. So please connect with the Haitian Bridge Alliance to continue to make the calls, send the emails, send the text messages to make sure we move forward. So again, there is a misconception that the bill has failed. That is not correct. We have steps to get us to the next to the finish line, and currently the bill is still moving in the Senate. In addition to the Senate Bill S4814, we have the Dream and Promise Act that was just reintroduced in the House as a discharge petition. those of us who have been in this fight for a long time, we can remember how we fought for the past 8 years to get the Dream and Promise Act passed in 2019 and 2022 in the House, but failed in the Senate. This time, Congresswoman Sylvia Garcia have reintroduced this bill as a discharge petition, and we are pushing to get 218 votes in the House so we can move forward. That bill will allow TPS holders, 1.3 million people from 17 countries, including Haiti, and all DACA recipients, what they call the dreamers, children who came to the United States at a very young age and who received DACA. In addition to that, that will include people with DED, Deferred Enforcement Departure, similar to TPS, but straight from the president himself. So, with the Dream and Promise Act, when passed, God willing, that's why we need to continue to fight, that will allow TPS holders, DACA recipients, and DED holders the opportunity to adjust their status from whatever they have right now to become a permanent resident, and if they do choose to become a US citizen. And that will be a way to make sure we don't continue to come and beg and fight for TPS years after years, because that bill, the Dream and Promise Act, will provide pathway for permanent residency and citizenship. Again, two different bills, one that will protect Haitians right now for 3 years, and we are pushing for that, and we need your support. The second bill is also happening to provide long term protection. It is not one or the other, it is both going on at the same time so we can get the support and the protection for our people. And we want to make sure people understand, yes, it says TPS. In the name itself, it is temporary. That is the narrative we hear over and over. But we need to understand it is temporary based on the current country conditions. And the United States government recently testified that it is unsafe currently and it is impossible currently for people to be returned to Haiti. One of them even mentioned someone who is trying to go to Haiti should leave their DNA behind in case something were to happen to them. So that is why we continue to fight and make sure that the government, including the president, understand how critical it is to move past the politics and make sure we stand in humanity. We make sure we stand on behalf of those in need right now. And what I tell people all the time, right now in Haiti, it is mango season, it's avocado season, it's cooked by the beach season. I would rather really want to be there to enjoy this summer. But the security on the ground make it impossible for me, for you, for TPS holders to go to Haiti right now. And the goal of the work that we do at the Haitian Bridge Alliance is to provide protections for the immigrants in the United States right now while we continue to find pathway to make sure our home country is sustainable so that when it's time for us to go home, we can. But right now in 2026 is not the time. We want to highlight that the Trump administration has continued to send deportation flights to Haiti. Last week, we had 111 people deported to Haiti. And we understand that they are planning to ramp up and potentially send at least 2 flights of deportation to Haiti per month. So those are the things we are looking into. Who are the people we are seeing getting detained very easily? We are seeing people who driving without the proper documentation, expired driver's license, expired license plate, without insurance, who might just take a red light and end up in ICE custody and being deported. We see a lot of people as well who are trying to flee the United States to Canada, and unfortunately were taken at the border, put in immigration detention, and being deported. So we are giving you the right information so you can make the correct educated decision for you and your family. A couple of things I want to highlight as well is that right now, we want to make sure you have the family plan. You make sure you have your burn list. And understand this is not something just for immigrants. It is something for everyone, regardless of your immigration status. But for immigrants specifically, this is the moment to make sure you have your affairs in order. Like we say in Haitian Creole, c'est pas le dominanger pour préparer cabano. You have to make sure you prepare before you get into those certain positions. Again, the fight is not over. We are fighting in Congress. We are pushing in public narrative. We are highlighting all of those things. So yes, the Supreme Court and deportation and all of those things are a clear reality, possibility. And we understand as well that family separation can be a big part of what we are dealing with. So that is why we continue to give this information. As Eric mentioned, we started doing family planning since November of 2024. For 2 years, we've been really sounding the alarm to let people know to protect themselves. Right now, we are facing those realities, but you are not alone. For those who are TPS holders, know that you are not alone. Know that this is not the end of it. We are fighting, but we want you to be prepared. Again, we are pushing for S4814 in the Senate and the Dream and Promise Act in the House to find ways to make sure we as a community are safe. I will stop there. And Alan and Eric, if you can see if we have some questions that needs to be answered, please stay connected with the Haitian Bridge Alliance. Go to the website. We are trying to keep it updated as much as possible. Please be gentle with us. We really are trying to get the right information for you. If you have questions, please email info@haitianbridge.org. And I believe Vivi and Susan has put on the chat our hotline and our reception numbers for you to call in. And also understand we have very limited capacity. We have close to 400,000 TPS holders, over 200,000 asylum seekers, people who have filed asylum, reaching out. We cannot answer all the calls, we cannot answer all the emails, but please make sure you contact wherever you are. Connect to a reputable organization, a reputable attorney, because we are also hearing a lot of abuse within the community. Please be careful of notarios, people who did an asylum application for your uncle, grandfather in 1975, not understanding the current play that is at risk. Do not go to someone who say we do asylum or we do immigration, because this is very, very critical for you to get the right support. If you do not have a reputable attorney organization helping you, it is just someone who does immigration. If there are mistakes, which we see 99% of those have been rejected due to simple mistakes or not being filed properly, you are on your own. Again, thank you for joining. We will continue to provide the information for you. And I'm going to pass right now to Alan and Eric to see if they can answer some of the outstanding questions we have right now.
So I just want to have one, there's something that I covered that I need to spend more time with. is what happens when TPS ends. We're not exactly sure if they're going to do mass NTAs. It'll be easy to do from the government system, which it may be. So just be prepared for whatever happens. It may just terminate in the system, and they may be a time that they allow people to just live, because giving a lot of NTAs will overcrowd the courtrooms now, and they're already doing master calendar hearings. So that is uncertain. As soon as I know exactly what they plan to do once it's terminated, and it's terminated, then we'll let you know that. But this is what generally happens when you're placed in removal. The very first thing you do is you receive an NTA, which is a notice to appear in court. The very first time you appear in court will be your master calendar hearing, which is just a place for you to sort of set up the calendar for your case. And that's where you're going to make your original prayer for relief, or ask for what relief is available to you, which you can parrot if you've seen a lawyer and someone's giving you advice and referral, or have your lawyer there to say, I'm going to go for asylum, I'm going to go for cancellation of removal. It just sort of sets the structure of the case, and then they will give you an individual calendar date. If you go to a master calendar hearing and you have nothing, right now, what they're doing is sort of moving people into removal in these sort of herds. So just be aware of that every case now may not get an individual calendar date if there's just no relief to be had. So from what used to be called immigration judges, now they're called deportation judges. So NTA first, then you have the master calendar hearing, and then you have your individual hearing for your relief. Right now, they may send an NTA to an old address. And what's important for you is that you're able to check your A number, as we did before, on the EOR site, or on the 1-800 number. And I just put in Creole in the box. How to do it, I'll put it in English as well. The telephone numbers to call and the website to check. And you want to do that proactively, because just because you don't get the NTA notice, if they have a court date and you're moved in abstention, meaning you were not there, you're still removed. And those are hard right now to get an attorney to sort of get that, to reopen it and to overturn it. So you want to avoid being in that circumstance where there is a date in a place. So let's say this happens. You go in the system, you put in your number, and it says you have a date in Texas. But you live in New York, which really shouldn't happen, because all your dates should be updated in the system through the AR11 system. But just in case it does, you need to contact the immigration court as soon as possible and let them know you don't live in Texas. You don't drive to Texas, but you don't live in Texas. So they will go back into the system and move it to the right of court in the right jurisdiction for where you live. So those are some of the things that you want to sort of watch for, because right now these moving, almost even before this, 60% of the cases were abstention, meaning the person never knew they had a court date, so they never went, and they were removed without even having notice of it, because the government was sending out notices via the mail, right? So we want to avoid that circumstance. And I think those were most of the questions that I can answer generally. People who have specific legal questions, all right? This is the time to get that file together and go see that attorney, because many of the questions that I answer, it seems that you might have some relief that you've been sitting on. Now's the time to activate that.
And I'd just like also to comment on the end of TPS and picked up where Alan left off. One, I see a final question here. Can you repeat, when does the TPS really end? Yes. TPS will only end once the district court's order in the Miat case from Washington, D.C. is actually dissolved by that district court. So there is no actually set date for Haiti TPS to end. Right now, it says July 27th on E-Verify, because that's a date the government has picked, because the court has said it will not do anything before then. But so we don't know exactly, but keep your eyes on that court. The other comment I'd like to make is about what happens to TPS in terms of, do people get NTAs? What have we seen when people actually lose protections? I just want to raise that unfortunately, some of the people we represent from places like Honduras or Nepal or Nicaragua, for example, have gone through this over the last year. They have had these protections that they had received from the court then be taken away again. Generally, we have not seen the TPS holding communities purposefully targeted with lots of NTAs. We have seen people get if they had a nice check-in already, or if they were part of some, again, a traffic stop where they were also in the car as well, then maybe they are getting picked up. But the fact that we haven't seen that happen in the past right now doesn't mean that that's not what the government is going to do or not what they're preparing to do. As Alan and Gerline have said, we're seeing lots of signs that the government is preparing to try and ramp up all of their deportations operations. So I just want to make those comments. The last thing I'd say is that I'm really impressed by the questions I see in the chat and in Alan's answers. I see people really, really now saying, okay, what are my other options? What are my other, and they're asking the questions based on what Alan's presented. And as you see, Alan is often answering, you may have a chance, but you need to see an attorney. You need to consult with an attorney. And so, please, like you're already starting to do, take this information that we've shared, think about your own individual place, because you're the expert on your life and your situation, and try if you can to, yes, get a consult with an attorney to see what relief is available for you. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you to all my colleagues too.
Before you log off,
Thank
I'll do
you.
one more thing. If you hit the three buttons where it says Know Your Rights, TPS, and Other Immigration, there are three buttons. It says More. You can hit Save Chat, and it will save this chat on your computer or on your phone, so you can go back to it and look at the links and read the questions that were provided to you and the documents that were provided for you after this call. This call most likely will be posted somewhere shortly. But in the meantime, for action today, the three little dots that says Know Your Rights. If you click on that dot, it'll say Save Chat. Save the chat, and it will save all the information in the box on your device, so you can go back to it later and see the attorneys that I provided, the slides that Haitian Bridge provided, and any other information in that box that you'll sort of need in the future. Okay.
Thank you so, so much, everyone, for joining. And for really making sure you get the right information. Thank you to Vivi, and others behind the scene. Thank you to Liz and Daniel for making sure we have interpretation in Haitian Creole. Thank you, Alan and Eric, for the wealth of information that you are providing. So please stay connected. We will be posting updates as they come to our website and also our social media. Please bear with us. If you are in New York City, in New Jersey, we invite you to join us tomorrow at 6 p.m. at the Brooklyn Children Museum, where we are going to premiere a phenomenal film that highlight the story of migration, of resilience, of love, and what we currently are experiencing in the United States. So if you are in New York, New Jersey, the Tri-State area, please join us at the Brooklyn Children Museum at 6 p.m. We'll have a cocktail hour. We'll have some performance by the amazing Shirley Sky. We are going to have the film and follow that with a panel discussion between myself, Pascal Solage, who is the creator of the film, Sylvain Labadie, who is the film is about, Ralph Thomas Saint Joseph, who is a journalist and producer on the film, and we will be moderated by the amazing Stacey Samuel, who has worked in CNN, NPR, and have really representing us in a very positive light. Again, join us there. Today is Friday, July 24th, 2026. You heard the information. We do not know what tomorrow will bring, but we have what we need today to make decision for today and tomorrow as we move forward. Again, this was a service to the community, not for the media or any government official. We want to make sure that people understand this is for the information of the community. We are asking folks to make sure we push for protection for all people, no matter where they are from, or what they look like and how they are moving forward. Again, thank you so much for joining us. The Haitian Bridge Alliance is your organization. So we continue to move forward, fighting for each other. Merci en pile. Thank you so much. See you in Brooklyn and see you somewhere else.
And for
We are
those of you
just
who don't see the three dots, then you may have to copy the information out of the box. We'll just wait a minute while you copy some of that stuff. I apologize if your view doesn't have three dots, but hopefully we can stay just a minute or two to let you try to download that information from the chat, because I know we're moving quite rapidly. But this seminar will also be available through Haitian Bridge and through YouTube at some point in the near future. Thank you, Gerline.
thank you. Thank you.